Look at the top corner of your screen, or check your wrist. Right now, a number is changing. Every single second, it ticks forward. You don't think about it, but you are constantly looking at it. You structure your meetings, your meals, your sleep, and your entire life around this mechanical pulse. But have you ever wondered, who decided a second should feel like this? We are the only species on Earth that lives inside a grid of numbers. For 99% of human history, time was not a number. It was an experience. Our ancestors did not know what 3 o'clock meant. They did not measure their days in seconds or minutes or even hours. They measured time by the natural cadence of the world. They knew that when the shadows grew long under the acacia tree, it was time to head back to camp. They knew that when the berries grew red, the winter was coming. They knew that when the moon was thin, the animals would migrate. Time was fluid. It was circular. It expanded during the long, lazy days of summer, and it contracted during the dark, freezing months of winter. If you asked a hunter-gatherer how long it took to walk to the river, they wouldn't say 30 minutes. They would say, it takes as long as it takes to cook a pot of roots. Time was anchored to human biology and nature. There was no rush. There was no concept of being late. If you missed a friend by the river, you simply waited, or you tried again tomorrow. The sun would rise again. The grass would grow. The river would flow. But then, we decided to build a cage. The cage was not built overnight. It was built key by key, gear by gear. The first major shift didn't happen in a factory. It happened in a monastery. In the Middle Ages, Christian monks needed to perform their prayers at exact times of the night and day. To keep their souls synchronized, they needed a device that didn't rely on the sun or the weather. They needed mechanical clocks. These early clocks didn't have hands or dials. They simply rang a bell to summon the monks to prayer. But for the first time in history, human behavior was dictated not by hunger or light or fatigue, but by the mechanical tick of a machine. The real trap, however, was sprung by the railway. Until the mid-19th century, every town in the world had its own local time. Noon was simply when the sun reached its highest point in your town. When it was 12 in London, it was 12:20 in Bristol and 12:15 in Birmingham. Nobody cared. A difference of 20 minutes didn't matter when you were traveling by horse. But when locomotives began hurtling across countries at 50 miles an hour, local time became deadly. Trains operating on different times crashed into each other on single tracks. Timetables were impossible to read. So in 1847, the British railway companies forced the entire country to synchronize to a single artificial standard: Greenwich Mean Time. Local sun time was dead. Railway time was born. Suddenly, the whole world followed. In 1884, representatives from 25 nations gathered in Washington, D.C., and carved the planet into 24 artificial time zones. For the first time, humanity agreed to ignore the sun. We agreed that a mechanical clock in a distant observatory would dictate when we woke up, when we worked, and when we slept. We traded the sky for a grid. This trade had a devastating side effect. Your brain is a biological clock. It is regulated by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a tiny group of cells that responds to light and dark. It controls your hormones, your body temperature, and your cognitive performance. But this biological clock is not mechanical. It doesn't run at a constant speed. It is messy, fluid, and responsive to the environment. The mechanical clock, however, demands absolute uniformity. Once time was standardized, it became a commodity. Under the industrial economy, time was money. If you sell your labor by the hour, then every minute you spend staring out the window, or resting, or gossiping is a minute stolen from your employer. So we invented the concept of time management. We broke our days down into 30-minute meetings. We installed calendar apps that ping us when our time is up. We began to view our lives as a series of slots to be optimized and filled. This is the mismatch. Your nervous system is designed for flow, but you are forcing it to live in a grid. We feel a constant background anxiety. We feel like we are always running out of time, always falling behind, always rushing to the next slot. But time is not a physical resource that you can run out of. It is just an abstract measurement. You cannot save time. You cannot waste it. You can only live in it. When you treat time like currency, you lose the ability to experience the present moment. So, how do we reclaim our time? We cannot throw away our clocks. We cannot miss our train flights, ignore our work meetings, and let the modern infrastructure collapse. We need the grid to cooperate at scale, but we can stop letting the grid rule our internal lives. First, you must build spaces of timelessness in your week. On a Sunday morning, turn off your phone. Hide your watch. Do not set an alarm. Wake up when your body tells you to. Eat when you are hungry, not because the clock says it is noon. Walk until you are tired, not until a fitness app tells you that you have completed 40 minutes. Second, re-anchor your awareness to natural cycles. Watch the sunrise. Sit in the dark for 10 minutes after sunset. Notice the changing shape of the moon. Listen to the wind. These natural cycles have been pacing our nervous systems for 2 million years. They bring calm because they don't demand a deadline. The clock will still tick tomorrow. The numbers will still change. But you don't have to be the machine. You are the observer. How do you feel when you go a whole day without looking at a clock? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe to stay aligned with the human baseline. We will see you in the next video.